Hi, welcome to Big Daddy Bakes. I'm Big Daddy, and today we're going to be making brown bread. The other day I was making some baked beans, and I thought it would be really good with a brown bread that's tasty and moist. So what I came up with is this recipe for brown bread. I think you'll enjoy it, so let's get to it, and I'll show you how to do it. For this recipe you will need 1½ cups of warm water, 1 tablespoon of sugar, 2 1/4 teaspoons of dry yeast. This is instant dry yeast from the packet, and that equals 1 packet. Need 2 cups of bread flour, 1 3/4 cup whole wheat flour, 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of softened butter. You'll also need 1/4 cup of honey, 2 tablespoons of molasses, and then we'll need about 1/4 cup of cornmeal that we'll use for the baking part of this, and then a few oats that we'll sprinkle on top of the loaves. So for this recipe, I'm going to do it by hand. I've shown you baking with the KitchenAid and a few times with stuff by hand, so I'm going to do this one by hand. And we're going to start by taking our water. I check the temperature. In this case it's about 103, 105, anywhere in there is fine. I'm going to put the granulated sugar, and I'm going to put the yeast in. And I'm going to grab this spoon that's right here, and I'm just going to stir that together. And I just kind of break that up, get the sugar dissolved in it. And I'm going to let that sit for about 10 minutes, just until I can see that the yeast has started working. And I'll be back. So we can see our yeast is very active. It's very plumped up. I'm going to pour that into a bowl, and then I'm going to add the molasses. The molasses gives this a deep flavor. I'm not the biggest fan of the taste of molasses, but in this recipe it really is good. Some honey. Those will add sweetness. And I'm going to stir those together and get that kind of mixed up. Alright. Then I'm going to add the butter and the cocoa, and I will put the salt in just a bit. I like to put the salt in after I have the flour in, so it doesn't just kill the yeast outright. So I'm going to put in the flour. This is the all-purpose flour. You can see how brown that's going to be. It's going to be lovely. And we're going to put in the rest of the flour. This is the wheat flour, whole wheat. So a couple questions that I've been asked about is, what brand of flour do I use? Any brand name will do. You might not can get the brand that I use where you're at. I use King Arthur flour because I think that they're one of the best. And but you know, any other flour is going to be fine if it comes from a decent company. I've always been kind of leery of brands that you don't know who makes them, so I kind of avoid those. Now I'm going to start kneading this, and it's going to take just a bit to get all of that flour worked in. My hands are impeccably clean. Now I'm going to start kneading this. It's going to take 15 minutes probably, kneading this by hand. I'm going to put a little flour on my board. I'm going to bring this out, and I'm going to get to kneading. When you get just about there, you're going to see that it gets less sticky and it's much more together. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to form it into a ball, like so. This is still going to be a little sticky. That's the way we want it. We don't want it so totally floured that it's firm and stiff. We want it really soft. I've sprayed a bowl here, and I'm just going to plop my down into it, and then it's going to go there. And the reason I'm using this graduated bowl is because I want you to see what it's like when it's doubled in volume. So I've kind of smashed that down, and we can see that it's just a little bit, well, it's close to 3. So when it's doubled, it should be up, so twice as much as what's in there. If you're just starting out and you want to do this, you can just take a magic marker or something and mark on the outside where it is, and then when it goes up to where you want it, then it'll be right. So I think this is going to take about a 2-hour proofing. So at the end of 2 hours, we'll come back and I'll show you how to shape. Okay, so our dough has definitely doubled in bulk. It actually a little bit over doubled. It's just warm in my kitchen tonight. So we're going to put it out on the board. I'm going to deflate it. And then I'm going to try to arrange it so I can cut it into 3 pieces without too much trouble. So do it in the center. Yeah, I'll make 4. So this is going to make 4 little loaves. 3, 4, it doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is flatten it out. Then I'm going to roll it up into kind of longish cigar. Pinch the bottom together. And that will be one of our little loaves. Now I'm going to put it on the tray. We'll just do the other one. Roll that out. Roll it up. Put that on our tray. Alright, so I've got them on their tray. I'm going to spray them with some Pam or other cooking spray, and then I'm going to put a piece of cling film on top of it, and then we'll take a look at them once they've risen, and I'm going to put some oats on the top, and I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so it's been about 30-35 minutes, and these have definitely puffed up and are looking beautiful. I'm going to push them a little bit more apart, just gently. I don't want to let out any of the air in them. I'm going to bake them in a 350 oven for 30-35 minutes, and I'll check them with the temp, and it should be right at 190. Here is our lovely bread now that it came out of the oven. I'm going to let it sit for about 10 minutes before I cut into it. This bread is actually really good served warm. So here's the bread that I made. It's soft and light on the inside. The crust is a little crumbly. It has a very nice texture, and it's very delicious. If you like what I do here on Big Daddy Bakes, please consider liking and subscribing, and perhaps sharing with a friend. Thank you so much.